I've just made one of the most common mistakes I see amateur golfers make. In this video, I'm going to tell you about 5 things that you think you're good at, but you're really not. So one of the things that amateur golfers get wrong all the time is choosing the right club. So in that shot, I had 142 yards, which for me would be a perfect 9-iron. Now, in a round of golf, chances of me actually ever hitting a perfect shot, probably like 2 in 10, 20%. So what I should be doing is actually taking one more club and sort of going with the probability that I'm not going to hit it perfectly. And actually, that will generally mean my ball will finish closer to the hole. Not to mention, there's a little bit of wind here, although maybe a slight upslope. So all those things would have contributed to the ball going shorter, which obviously means the 9-iron was the wrong club. So if you want to increase the probability of hitting the ball closer and therefore scoring lower, what you should be doing is often just taking one more club, because the average shot will finish much closer than if you're always planning for the perfect golf shot, which just frankly never happens. Something that comes out when I'm giving lessons to amateur club golfers is golfers are just not very good at playing with what they've got on the day. So I hook the ball. So when I'm out on the golf course, I'm going to play for some right to left curve on pretty much all of my shots. Now, I understand that ideally I wouldn't be a hooker and I would hit the ball perfectly straight every time. And when I'm on the driving range or practicing, it's fine to try and fight the hook, aim straight and try to do something different to what comes naturally. But when you're playing in a tournament and your focus is getting the ball in the hole in as fewer strokes possible, what you have to do is just play with what you've got on that day. So I know loads of golfers who slice it and they come and I say, well, where are you aiming? They say straight. And I say, well, obviously you're just going to hit it into the right trees or the right rock. So what they should be doing, if you've warmed up and you're hitting fades or you've hit fades for the past 30 years, is you should be aiming up the left side and just allowing that ball to move in the air to have better outcomes. So I know I'm going to hook it. So I'm going to aim up the right, play for that shape, and that gives me the best chance of getting the ball in the fairway, which will then help me shoot lower scores. Bit of a draw, exactly what I thought was going to happen. Now, I'm not good enough, and neither are you, to know exactly how much that ball is going to curve. So some shots it might curve 2 yards, other shots it might curve 20 yards. But if you're not aiming and allowing for that shot shape, the ball's always moving away from the target and you're just going to find yourself in bother more. So find out what's happening on that day, take note of which way the ball's curving most consistently, and then go play with that shape that day and you will shoot lower scores. Something I see all the time when I'm playing with golfers, or certainly with people that I teach, is people generally just aren't very good at green reading. Now, green reading seems to be one of those things where people believe it's either something you're good at or something you're not, something you might be born with. Is it genetics? I don't know. But it is a learnable skill. And what happens is green reading comes with experience. Now, the only system out there for green reading at the moment, I believe, is Aimpoint, which you could go and do. And that absolutely works in terms of giving you a solid system to know how much the green is going to force the ball to curve. You don't have to do that. One of the things I see all the time with people is they just don't think about the outcome that they've just had. So in my head, when I hit putts, I'm always trying to think, okay, well, when I was last at my home club, which I play at every week, when the flag is generally in the same position, once every 4 or 5 weeks. And where I leave my ball, I will have played from before. So in my head, I should have a library of putts and breaks, so I should have a pretty good idea of what this ball's going to do. So I think amateur golfers need to do a much better job of actually just thinking, okay, well, when the flag was there last time, where was I and where have I put from and what did that ball do? You should try and create this massive library of shots of experience that you can learn from. So when you go play different courses, it's a little bit harder because you're playing greens that you don't know, but most people play 80 or 90% of the golf at their home club. So you should know your greens pretty good. So there isn't really an excuse to be a bad green reader. So this putt here, I've got, I don't know, 35 feet on quite a severe right to left. I know that I generally underread these sorts of putts, so I'll probably play a little bit more. I'm not going to be too scientific about exactly where to aim because my chances of making the putt are so small. So I'm just going to allow for probably 4 feet of break right to left, and hope that with good pace that gets the ball somewhere close to the hole. So something I might do or might suggest to golfers who will just tell me that they really struggle seeing the slope, to actually walk to somewhere around the halfway point of my putt, just to stand on the slope to get a sense in my feet and in my legs which way the ground is sloping. This can help when you've got a putt that looks fairly straight but actually turns out isn't. And I can see here a little bit more clearly that this slope right there is quite steep, so I might actually play before break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk, stand behind my ball. I don't line my ball up because it sort of doesn't necessarily make any difference to me. I'm going to have a look. I've got about 4 or 5 feet to the right. Then I'm going to just to pick a spot in front of my ball that I'm going to try and roll the ball over somewhere around here. And I'm going to set up to that spot. Have a couple of putting strokes, just looking at the hole, which gives me a good sense for my speed. Not hit that hard, no. And that obviously pitched on the low side. So now, if I'd have maybe hit that slightly harder, maybe it would have stayed out to the right a touch more. But what I've done there is I've left myself a 2.5 foot putt below the hole, so not the end of the world. Now, what I'm going to do is just think about, okay, when the flag was there and I was long right of the flag, I played 4 feet of break and really what should have played 7. So in my head, I'm going to log that. The next time I come to Fulford, I'm just going to try and, I may not hit it over there, but I'm going to try and recall that experience so that I've got a better chance of hitting my long putts close so that I don't ever 3-putt. So something that happens out on the course that often costs amateur golfers double bogeys or worse is they over-egg their ability and their skill level around the greens. So what I mean by that is they're often taking on shots that they're just not, frankly, good enough to play, or they certainly aren't going to pull off a high percentage amount of the time. So this shot is a good example where chipping over a bunker to go directly to the flag. I'm on a bit of a downslope, so this is a shot where if I get it wrong, I'm going to be in the bunker. It's going to take me 3 to get down from there, and I'm going to have probably a double. Where what I could do instead is use a club that's a little bit higher probability, so like a pitching wedge or an iron, and play out to the right of the flag, except that I'm going to take, I'm not going to have a 3-foot tap in, but I am going to have 20 to 15 foot putt instead, and except that from here, 3 is a good score. When you're trying to put together a low score, the key isn't hit more good shots. The key is hit fewer terrible shots. Hit fewer shots that cost you doubles, cost you triples. So it really is a game of probability. So what I would like to see people doing more of is actually just taking the medicine. If you're out of position, just chip it to the middle of the green, 2-putt and move on. It might look cool on TV when Scotty Scheffler hits a low spinning pitch that stops by the hole. But if you're playing off anything more than +1, probably not going to pull that off very often. So you shouldn't really be trying it. Good to practice, don't get me wrong. It'd be nice to have in the bag, and that might take years and years of practice. But what we should be doing, chip it to the safe part, take your medicine, keep your scores down, and get around the golf course without any calamities. So I used 52 there. I played away from the bunker. I've sort of hit it written basically pin high. And what that's going to mean is I'm going to have an easy 2-putt. I'm going to make 5 and I'm going to move on. I actually didn't even strike that very well. So that was a great example of, if I'd have duffed it going straight at the flag, I probably would have gone in the bunker. So always take the safest club, play the safest shot. Unless you're playing in match play and you really need to get up and down. In stroke play, it's all about the lowest score. So just keep those high numbers off your card. Something that golfers are particularly bad at, in my opinion, is diagnosing their faults when they're on the golf course. Golfers make it way too complicated. They get far too deep in their heads with different swing ideas, different swing faults that they've maybe seen on Instagram or YouTube. And we need to do a better job of just keeping things simple. So when I see golfers hit bad shots, they will say to me, I need to keep my head down. I need to drop the club on the inside more. I need to stop coming over the top. I need to stop early extending. And actually, all those faults are too far away from what the real problem is. So what I mean by that is you need to start thinking about your faults on the course as what was wrong with the way the club met the ball. So when you top the ball, the club has just hit the top of the ball. So the solution to that is simply try and hit the ground more. It's not keep my head down. It's not extend my right arm more. It's not whatever. It's just the club needs to hit the ground. If I fart the ball, that isn't because I early extended. That wasn't because I too shallow or I swayed. It was simply the club hit the ground too early. And that means what you need to do on the next one is just try to hit the ground either later or not at all. If you hit the ball to the right, that's because the face is open. So you need to shut the face. And if you hit it left, it's because the face is shut and you need to open it. And if golfers went and played with those 4 simple ideas, then what they would find is they sort of generally will enjoy playing more because you're not in your head about your technique, but you also will find it much easier to correct your shots when you're out playing. What you don't want to be doing, and what I've done myself, is stand on the 3rd tee with the 4th different swing you're going to try that day just because the first 3 haven't worked. What you want to do is keep it really simple. Swing is the swing. We just need to control how the club meets the ball differently. More ground, less ground, open face, closed face, and work on the technical stuff when you're on the range and when you're not in a tournament, because the golf course isn't the place to be messing about with your swing. We want to just keep our thoughts on our impact and just play and enjoy the game.